welcome back to session 49. In the last session, we touched upon the second paragraph. Actually, I think the second sentence of the second paragraph, which was the first 5 Chinese characters out of the total 9. And in this session, we will emphasize on the last 4 character of that 9 Chinese characters. Basically, was 故有无相生，难易相成. So this is the 难易相成 part of it, which is basically talking about, the difficult things are really only compared to the easier things. So obviously, that's just no-brainer. Easy, not so easy. But I think it goes beyond a certain, the criteria. I guess on the philosophical level, the Daoist teaching goes a little beyond that. There's certain things we do know. They are actually rather difficult, especially in a context of the ancient Chinese, just about, learning everything. It was all apprentice, way. Apprentice, was the way of learning. And everything was about Kung Fu, which I mentioned before. Kung Fu literally means the time span to learn something. Basically practice, like even here today in America, people say, how do you get to Lincoln Hall? Well, by practice, which makes perfect, right? The same thing. I mentioned that I very briefly, when I was a very young boy, came into a little training on the Chinese Tai Chi sword, practice a little bit. I did not become a Kung Fu man because I simply did not do the real training, not the whole 9 yard. And obviously I didn't stay in long enough, forget about enough, even it's just basically very briefly. But it was enough for me to being able to appreciate the differences, between those who have some Kung Fu and those have non-Kung Fu, such as myself. It shows, it definitely does. So about, more difficult or, somehow easier, some people, they've got it, okay, kind of born with it, and for them it's just easier. And it's not everybody would basically, come out the same, even though you follow the same master, and the master actually teach each and every individual differently, because they could see, or at least the better master, they could see the individual differences. So teaching methodology will be different, or at least vary a little bit from the otherwise the SOP in the teaching, right? But what I remember was, of course, this was, older China. This was before the Great Cultural Revolution, per se. I remember my master basically emphasized a lot on teaching the virtue before you even start practicing Kung Fu. You need to learn what a Kung Fu man is supposed to, govern your own behavior with. To begin with, the whole point that I was picked by my master was because basically I was a very teeny tiny, thin little boy, even, as an Asian by Chinese standard. So apparently I need a little more physical exercise. So that was one. And it was not because, so when you go out and fight, you can do better job for yourself. It was not that. And also, the other thing is, whatever you learn, you need to use it to help those who need help, weaker and being bullied. And that was another virtue of it. But nobody was supposed to show off. Now, this part is not because, we're such noble people. Oh, we don't show off with no vanity. It's not about that. It's actually for your own sake, for your own good. Because once you start to, open your big mouth, like you start to show off, you think you're the best. There's such a saying in Chinese, says, 山外有山，天外有天. Uh, that could translate into English like, there's always, more mountains surrounding the mountains when you're, situate yourself in the valley. And then, there's a big galaxy beyond this, planet of Earth. In other words, you don't know what is out there, so you can never presume you're the best. And once you do consider yourself as the best, guess what? There are always a lot of people out there trying to top the best, and they will come to, sooner or later have a showdown with you and to find out who's the best. And you could really hurt yourself or get yourself killed, for opening your big mouth. So in the old days, in ancient China, those who practice kung fu, there's no way they could hide, right? So people could see them practicing. So they could not, hide the fact that they have been practicing kung fu. So a lot of them just say, "Oh, I'm no good at all." They try to deceive the general public on the fact that they have been practicing, because they don't want to generate this undesired reputation, which eventually lead them into some kind of contest, some kind of showdown. That's just, it makes no sense, right? And another thing is, in ancient Chinese society, most people, not only they want to appear, very humble, a lot of time they try to avoid at all costs of any conflict. This is not just, nice people by nature. That's another, way to, for the self-protection, because you don't want to make any enemies, over the things that don't really matter. Because the way in ancient China, once you make an enemy out of anyone, and that's going to go on forever, for generations after generations. It's never going to end, because let's say one guy got killed, either in a showdown of kung fu, whatever, or just over whatever the dispute, and evolved and allocated into some kind of violent confrontation, and ended up with life lost. So the male heir of whoever died in such event or incident, from the day was born, would be taught the whole purpose of the life of this male heir would be basically, to deliver the revenge for the family, to protect the family name. And if this generation did not, succeed in that, then the next generation and all the generation, coming up, basically just repeatedly being reminded on the daily basis, your mission of your entire lifetime is basically for the revenge. And so how bad could that be? Basically, it's like, so the other side, of course, they know this fact. They would try at all costs to make sure no male heir is left from that family. So that just get into the vicious, uh, I guess fight or you know, go on forever. So nobody wants that. So that's why it's not just being humble. You don't want to get into something, once started, just nobody can finish ever. That's how bad it was back in ancient China. So that's why the Chinese back then did not want to cause anything that they're not ready to basically have generations after generations to stay, engaged in the, fatal conflicts with somebody else. Um, and nevertheless, with that in your mind, a lot of the Kung Fu people, when they practice, what other people, seemingly do in the public that they couldn't hide, they also find their own little private spot somewhere else, away from the public, that they can hide themselves and practice a little something else so that they can develop some kind of deception. Some people, they supposedly, something happened to their right arm, right hand. So in public, they only practice with their left hand. So the right hand, they always look in a general public something like this or different. But anyway, it's like a walking advertisement. Hey, you know what? I'm a handicap, and problem is with my right hand. But that's the killing part. Nobody, in a confrontation, you would not expect something, come out of his right hand, and that's where his killer movement would come out in a total surprise, right? Because for 20, 30 years or even more, number of years, the guy's been practicing that, in the dark, nobody knew, and that just came out, in the hand combat. Wow. So I guess the whole point about this difficult or not so difficult, it's all perception or even deception. What is on the surface people could see is very obvious, right? But there's things that you don't see and you don't know if that exists or not, especially with the ancient Chinese and ancient Chinese society. And then now that we're on the subject of Kung Fu, a lot of it, looks like it's all about the movement, very specific, just like a ballet, all the defined positions, the movements. But Kung Fu is not about that. It's how do you actually use all those moves, and skillfully to attack when you have to, when you need to. But everything started from the basic moves. You learn this, right? But ultimately, at the highest level, it's all about the mental state. It does not matter what weaponry you were trained, you practice. They said at least 18, I don't really know, but 18 different kind of weaponaries, ancient weaponaries. The ultimate stage is you can kill people easily without any weaponry. It's your mind, not just your hands or your kicks, most people heard about Shaolin Kung Fu, but Shaolin is just the one major school, or I guess a school of Chinese martial arts, but equally strong, or it has been, I guess, as well as Shaolin Kung Fu, was Wudang. Wudang is Daoist, I guess, which eventually turned into religion, the Daoist, as versus the Chinese Kung Fu of Shaolin, which is Buddhist. But for both, at the ultimate level, That's all mental state. So when you are at that level, what is difficult? What is easy? It's even beyond the measurement. And people don't actually get to see what is the best. You never ever. Of course, today you have the champion, world champion or Chinese national champion, but that's all for show. All those moves were designed basically, you don't really have the traditional way, the real showdown. Basically, when you're having one of those contacts, one has to be killed, so the other can, I guess, claim as the winner of that round, because there'll be a lot more coming to make sure this claim does not stay there long enough and to be basically replaced by someone else, right? So we never actually get to see who is the best for long. And today we probably don't even get to see the best, because other than the championship, which is for show, you don't, those really, really are good. They don't even tell you they know Kung Fu at all. They're hiding it. Why? They don't want to be killed. That thing can be really, really bad if you open your mouth, right? So that is what we're talking about, the difficult and the easy part. I don't have any experience relating to that Kung Fu thing that people talk a lot about in my days when I was a little boy. But what I did experience was this was back in the Cultural Revolution time in China. Remember, most of the time, we after I think the Great Cultural Revolution started at the later part of the first semester of my first year in elementary school, and I went back to school, meaning the school reopened for me about 3 years later. So I skipped the second year and third year, went straight to the fourth year in elementary school, right? And so at school, day in, day out, we didn't really have the real academic things to learn. It was all the Mao's, BS, all that stuff. So the students, they were playing pokers in the classroom or having fun, this and that. I was basically just, doing paintings and drawings every class. And I was really supposed to be a good student because I didn't make any noise. I was pretty quiet, just at my own desk, doing my own, little art thing, which had absolutely nothing to do with whatever, class was going on. It didn't matter, right? So because I don't know about the whole country, at least as far as I know, in Beijing, all the schools were like that. And so people did not, I guess the kids did not have a way to prevail, like academically. There was no such a thing back then. So what could kids do? So the biggest bullies in a certain region started to, stand out with the reputations in certain, neighborhoods, or even, many neighborhoods combined into certain region or area. So a lot of kids, okay, they were bullied, and they were just, small boys, just, like myself. They got bullied, and one day they got really tired of that. So what they did, then they put a kitchen knife. Back then, the kitchen knife is about basically this long and this wide. They put the kitchen knife really sharp into their school bag, and they would go to those with the top bullies, with the biggest, the worst reputation, where they say the baddest ass, in my times, the little kid, so quiet, never had any record, okay, just walk up to the worst bully, the biggest bully in the region, walk up there and bang, with that knife. Go straight for that. Right away, that boy became the biggest bully in the region because everybody became so afraid of the guy. This is what they say in Chinese. They say, 横的怕愣的，愣的怕不要命的. Translated into English, that means those tougher ones are always afraid of the stupid ones. Because stupid people, they don't have to make any sense. Whatever they want to do, they do it. So they're not normal. So you can't really predict their moves. But then those stupid ones are also afraid of those basically just, determined to die. If the guy did not even want to live anymore, how can you put up a fight against this guy? Because he wanted to die, right? And you wanted to leave. When you want to live, you want to, leave the fight. The fight. What is happening to me? You want to leave the fight. You don't want to stay in the fight. So when a little, guy bullied a line up and started to go all the way to the top of the chain and to, replace that one, that happened a lot in my time. And unfortunately, because this kind of boys, they were not really, I guess, seasoned fighters, so they had no common knowledge. Sometimes they had the sharp knife, not the kitchen knife, but the sharp long knife, and they meant to probably just stab somebody in the back, so that because they're smaller compared to the bigger guy they were attacking, so they thought they would get a better chance out of surprise. But the problem was when they put their knife in from the back around the waistline, that's a lot of time very fatal. So the knife went in, the guy will die. So this little young boy became murderers. Things like that. This is something I can relate to. It had nothing to do with the martial art, but pretty much basically, when you have the, I guess, reputation, good or bad, out there will be someone try to come to top you, okay? Try to replace you. And that, for your, long-term self-protection consideration, you don't want to open your big mouth. So that come back to the more difficult, the easier. Everything's comparative, okay? So on the Kung Fu side, nothing is easy, because I can tell you that much, based on my very limited exposure, to that. When I see a guy, showing that, move, apparently a lot of them on TV, you see, we can tell they're not really that good, but they probably, had a champion, once or twice, but hey, that's a game. I guess I don't even want to see the guys are really good or the women are really good, because they don't come out and show, right? And they can kill you easily. That part is easy. So the easy part for me is basically keep my mouth shut. Don't open my big mouth. And hey, I don't have to worry about it. I really don't know anything about Kung Fu. Now, of course, if I don't know, I'm not going to say I do. That's the easy and difficult, and basically it's all comparative. Easy for who, meaning of what. It's just too deep. Okay, the definition almost means nothing when it comes to the Chinese martial arts. What is good? What is bad? What is difficult? What is easy? Nothing is easy. Okay, when it comes to the Chinese learning, nothing is easy. When you have a master in an apprentice, kind of relationship, you never hear anything positive, not even once. Like your master would say, "Oh, you did great." Never. Always pick on you. but supposedly that's how to get you motivated to learn. Of course, with contemporary Chinese, that may or may not even work because you get frustrated and then you drop and you bail yourself out, right? So difficult, not so difficult, not with the Chinese learning. There's no such a thing as easy. So anyway, I guess that's what I wanted to talk about: easy versus not so easy, in the sense of Daoist teaching. And I guess you may have your own life experience to relate to. So that is basically the part that I could offer, uh, you know, in this session. So until next one, ciao.